Welcome to the, what are we going to call it? We're going to call it,
I don't know yet.
edit this out.
Maybe we can
Hey,
get
welcome
enough
to the podcast.
podcast. There you go.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, and we'll figure out a name later.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the first podcast. We're still thinking through names of what we're going to call this thing. Hopefully by the time we upload it, we'll have a name.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm Barry,
I'm Jeff.
and we've got some different backgrounds and different perspectives on things. And thinking about why we wanted to start this podcast. I think you've got a lot of funny stories, and some are funny, maybe some are not so funny. You might think they're funny, but I think they're kind of funny.
Yeah.
And you were from Tennessee, born and raised in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right. And
Probably obvious from my accent.
yeah, if you couldn't tell, he's a Southerner. And if you can't tell from me, I'm actually from the North.
Yeah.
So some people in the South would call me a Yankee.
Nondescript accent.
A nondescript. But I actually grew up in Fargo, North Dakota area, Fargo-Moorhead, Minnesota. And if you've ever seen the movie Fargo, and you know that lady cop, who's her name, Marge? You remember the movie?
Yeah. Well, they had like a series on TV.
They had a movie a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen the movie, but I've seen the series.
Anyway, the female cop, I think her name is Marge, and she's got just a really thick Fargo accent.
Kind of like your brother.
Kind of like my brother, but even worse. I mean, I don't even if you ever met my mother, but she sounded just like Marge on Fargo.
Right.
So anyway, I'm from the North, Jeff's from the South. My career has always kind of been in corporate America, and
Mine's been automotive mainly and resale.
yeah. So we'll kind of get into some of the things that you're doing. I think you've had a lot of interesting things in your career.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But we'll kind of get into that. But I think there's just a lot of cool topics. There's things we probably don't agree on. There's some, like we might get into some politics.
We probably somewhat agree on politics.
Somewhat.
I don't fit the stereotypical Southerner when it comes to politics, for sure. So
Yeah, and I would say, well, we'll see where
we'll do that later.
We'll do that later.
Yeah.
So, type of things that we plan to have in these podcasts, type of things that we talked about. You've done a lot of car work,
Right.
and you were an auto mechanic for many years. You've flipped a lot of cars.
Rebuilt totals. Had a frame and body shop. Done, I guess, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and not just cars. I mean, you've done a lot of other projects. I think we both done a lot of projects.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
Like,
you probably have done more house projects, building projects than I have, probably.
Yeah, so I built a couple decks. I've done some internal work. My wife actually has a honey-do list for things that she still wants me to do in the house.
My roof's leaking now.
Your roof's leaking?
Yeah.
No, last year your windows were. Well,
I've already rebuilt all that, but now my roof's leaking too. So
in the house.
yeah, in the living room. Yeah. I was laying on the couch and it was dripping on me.
Oh no!
Yeah. So I done the traditional Southerner thing. I went outside, looked at it, went back in the house and put a bucket under it, and kept watching TV.
Dude, now you better get after that person.
Yeah, I plan on it.
So are you going to need to have a new roof or what?
I hope not. I think what's happened is the very ridge cap, there's a spot loose on it, and I can actually stick my finger through a couple of holes where the critters have ripped the pieces of the roofing off.
See, that's a whole nother story. The critters. Man, the critters at your house.
Yeah. So
Right.
I think I can just put the new ridge cap on it, I think, and fix it. So it's just cold, and I didn't want to get up there, so.
Yeah. You got any blue tarps on the roof yet?
No, I just
haven't gotten that
put the
far.
bucket under it inside, and
Well, you know that water that's coming in, it's leaking through the ceiling.
I know.
Yeah. All right. So you don't want to lecture on it.
No. It's not going to change anything with a lecture. So,
All right. So one of the things that, and the reason we're sitting in front of this truck here is there's kind of a story with this truck, and there's stories yet to be made. So we were at dinner, I don't know, it was several months ago, and I said, hey, I'd really like to find an older truck, like a 70s, early 80s truck. I didn't want anything with a lot of electronics in it. I wanted something really simple. And I didn't want to spend an arm and a leg to go find a used old truck. And so I think while we were at dinner, you just pulled up your phone and you found a listing for this truck.
yeah, it was a friend of mine had it at the time. And when you said that, then it reminded me he had it. Because I had been meaning to go look at it to buy it for myself. So
this is a 1985 Ford F-150. You can't really see the whole truck, but actually the body's in really, really good shape. There's no dents in it. There's really no rust anywhere except in the bed and maybe a little underneath. The interior's not in that great a shape, but the motor in this thing, it's the 300 cubic inch straight six or inline six. And when I got it, it didn't really feel, so I live up on Signal Mountain, and I think that night I was taking it home and I was going up the mountain, I was having a hard time. Like I had the pedal to the metal and it was probably going maybe 30 miles an hour up the mountain hill. And so after driving it around a little bit, I'm like, this thing probably needs a little bit of work. And I think the main reason was it was leaking oil, and I didn't want to be able to park at my garage and muck up my concrete. So you and I decided to pull the engine out.
right, and you said what?
And reseal it. So we had to, I thought you said resell it. See, that's your Tennessee.
Well, that's all right. You said muck.
So we pulled the engine out of it. We didn't do a complete overhaul on it. We took it, we took the head off. We replaced all the gaskets. We replaced both the front and rear main seals, and I ground the valves on it. And so as far as what we did to the engine, that was about it. Then, it had the stock carburetor, stock intake on it, stock exhaust manifold on it. And I knew that I wanted something better than that. So I ended up putting a
Offenhauser.
Yeah, an Offenhauser intake, and then the manifold. Now I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the manifold is.
A hooker, or it was a Hedman.
It's a Hedman.
Hedman.
It's a Hedman exhaust header.
And then what? A 450 4-barrel vacuum secondary Holly.
It's a 390 CFM.
Okay.
4-barrel carb. So replacing that single barrel carb on it. So we put all that stuff on it and put it all back together. Put it in the engine, or put the engine back in the truck, and it's running. So right now it's running rich, where we're getting kind of that backfiring sound in the exhaust. So you were kind of telling me why that's happening, right?
Yeah, just too much fuel in the exhaust. I think you said you had jetted it down, and I think it probably needs a couple of steps more down.
So it had 52s in it for jets.
Right.
I just stepped it down to 48s. I also have a set of 46s. That'll be the next step to take it down. But I'm not sure if I think that spark plugs are firing okay. I just pulled all the spark plugs out last week. They all look fine.
They're all clean.
They're all clean.
Not black.
They're not black. So we are definitely getting too much fuel in the system, and it's not getting burned off. And that's probably why I'm getting really bad gas mileage.
Now, did you put the fuel mixture gauge in it?
I haven't yet. So when I got that gauge, it didn't come with a bung.
Right.
So if you ever put a fuel mixture gauge, and I haven't done it yet. I've never done one before, but my expert here is kind of talking me through it.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong person about expert on carburetor. My suggestion is go to fuel injection. So,
well, what are we talking? Another $1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not ready to drop another $1,000 on that thing. So,
of course, if I would have known that we're going to have to pull it back out, I would have suggested up front that we just go to V8.
Well, why didn't you do that before we did all that work?
Because I didn't know you were going to want to try to fix the blow-by.
Okay, so the
We
blow-by.
I wasn't really worried about it. Like I said, I would have just took a tube sock, shoved it over the over the breather, and kept going.
So the blow-by was another whole problem. I was okay with working on the rich mixture and everything, but what was happening was I'd take it out on the highway and step on it, and I had oil coming out of my valve cover, the PCV valve, and the breather hole, and the dipstick. And so at first it was milkshake. I had milkshake in the oil.
Right.
You remember that, right?
Right.
And I thought, man, I was scared because I thought, man, I probably got something wrong with my head gasket. So I pulled the head off, put a new head gasket on, put it all back together, and the milkshake ended up going away.
Right. Just from condensation.
Just from condensation, right. And I think what was happening there is I would take it out for just a quick run around the block or whatever, and I didn't get a chance to burn off all the
Right.
moisture in it. But now it's blowing oil, and man, it just really disheartening me when you had taken the whole engine out, done all that work, and you're still good in that. So it's still parked in the garage here, taking up a space where my daughter's car really should be, because you should see the puddle of oil under here. It's big.
That's kind of the risk you run with sealing the head. You're putting a lot more pressure on the bottom end. At least that's what the old timers always claim, is you seal the head, then you're going to put more pressure on the bottom end, and sometimes you end up with blow by.
Yeah.
And I assume that to be the case. I've always heard it. Like I say, when this has been 30 years ago since I've raced anything, but my motor was so wore out, I would literally take a tube sock, cut the toe out of it, slip it down over the breather to soak up the oil, and you just carry a couple of extra socks in the car.
See, I got a feeling that's a Tennessee thing.
Probably.
I've never heard anybody in Minnesota doing something. So anyway, we figured out it really is blow by. So how we found that out was I put a air compressor on my number one cylinder just a few days ago and pumped air into it and got it at top dead center, so both those valves were shut, but I was still having air coming up through the push rod holes, and not just in that number one cylinder, but it was all of them. So that you told me, well, you got blow by, you got bad rings.
Right.
So that's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to take this thing out again, tear it all the way back down, take the pistons out, put new rings on it. Probably we're gonna have to hone out the cylinders.
And probably put pistons in it too.
Yeah, because what typically happens with, this is old truck, so pistons that old.
Well, this old of a car, old cars are different than new ones. They didn't last as long. They wore out faster. A lot more parts would wear out. Fords had a bad problem with the early Fords with breaking skirts off the pistons.
Yeah.
Or cracking them. So, I'm assuming we're going to have to put pistons in it. Hopefully just put bearings, rings, set of pistons, and hone it, hopefully. But, you may have to go to the machine shop and have it other done. But we can do the kind of the redneck rebuild, and see what happens.
So if we're going to do a rebuild, what are the options? Like, what should we consider in terms of getting more horsepower out of this thing?
Well, it's according to what you're wanting. Are you looking for a lot more horsepower, or are you looking for more of just sound and drivability? And if it was me building it, I would probably just put some kind of smaller, noisy cam in it. And probably everything else pretty close to stock.
A smaller cam?
Well, you just really wanting something for noise and a little bit of bottom end, right?
So I want something that.
So what I would do, I would just probably. I've been out of it for so long. As far as hot rodding, I don't really know what to put in it. I would just call Summit or Jags and get their opinion up front, or talk to some of the local Ford guys and see what they think as far as the cam goes. And then I would just go with a normal cam with everything else fairly stock.
So, I'm kind of thinking, I mean, my truck's, according to my neighbor, my truck's already allowed. He texted me one night and said, hey, easy up on the race engine up there.
Yeah.
But, won't name any names, neighbor. But, so I put new exhaust on it as well. I didn't mention that. So I put exhaust on it with Flowmaster, is it Flowmaster mufflers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dual exhaust with Flowmaster mufflers. It's got an okay sound, but what I was really hoping for was that kind of deeper loping sound, like.
But then you need to get the cam will help with that, a correct cam, just to get that lope out of it.
Yeah. So I kind of want a little bit of a hot rod truck. So that's what we're going to have to do.
So we need to lower it.
Lower the truck.
Yeah, because it looked tremendously better. I mean,
I
just
talked-
like my van looks a whole lot better now than it did before I lowered it.
I talked to my wife about the idea because I showed her a picture of those wheels that we had set next to it.
Right.
They're smaller wheels. And she said, no way. And
I don't usually ask my wife's opinion on the cars.
wow. All right. We might have to have my wife on the show and go through some of the stuff. And maybe she needs to get more educated on how things should be with this kind of project.
Yeah.
But maybe I think when she saw it, after it was done, she was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Put some fat tires on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be cool. She likes me having an old truck, but she's not real keen on all the amount of time I have to take to work on it. And
Or riding in it.
she actually likes riding.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Lori doesn't care about my van either way. She's not real keen on riding it. So,
My wife
with no
won't-
air and
She won't ride on Harley
that.
because she thinks we're going to orphan our kids together.
Well, Lori will ride with me on the Harley. So
Well, Kath, she's ridden with me a couple times, but not long distance or anything. But maybe after the kids leave the house, maybe she'll be more willing to get on it. But anyway, so that's, as we go through this podcast, we'll be showing, we'll have some episodes where we actually are doing the work and we're pulling out the engine.
not talking about just
Yeah.
not just talking about it, but do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually need to get it done, right?
Yeah.
So I got to do some research in terms of, we probably just need to pull it out, see what shape everything is in, like the skirts for the pistons.
I don't think it'll be in bad shape, but I think you will have to put pistons in it. I think you'll have to put bearings, pistons, rings, hopefully hone it. But we may have to send it off to the machine shop
Yeah.
and have it done.
So I think first step is just pull it out and see what kind of shape it's in. We didn't really look closely at the main bearings or anything. We didn't pull any of that stuff apart.
Yeah,
so
we didn't even pull the caps off.
I'm sure we'll have to do all the bearings, main bearings and
I'm sure.
for the camshaft as well. But and then we'll figure out what to order. See how. But once we take it out, I know I'm going to want to just do everything we possibly can to it. This thing's stock, from my understanding and watching some other videos of guys who have done the ultimate build on the Ford 300, showed that it starts off at a base 88 horsepower.
It's probably about right.
Adding the exhaust, adding the offie intake, and a 4-billet carb, that took it from 88 to 163 horsepower. Do you believe that?
No.
You don't believe that?
No. You talking about 80? You talking about doubling the horsepower? That is hard to do.
It is hard to do.
Even starting out at a baseline of 80 horsepower, that's hard to do, to double.
So I mean,
And you're gonna have to figure too. This thing's got what 80,000 miles on there or something.
Who knows?
It's
Speedometer.
35 years old, 40 years old.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have, when you started on it, you didn't start. If it comes stock with 88 horsepower, it doesn't have that now. Or didn't have it when you started.
No,
it was probably closer to 60.
Yeah, that's pretty weak.
Yeah. And then I think what you did maybe added, I would guess, and again, I'm no expert on hot rods, but I'm going to guess 30 to 40 horsepower tops.
It would be interesting to put it on a dyno before we put it back in the.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that has one, but I do have we can start now and get a baseline because I have the performance meter. So we can take it out and get a baseline of what it is now before we start as far as performance of 0 to 60, quarter mile, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, anyway, we're gonna do some videos of, the process, pulling it out, the work that we're gonna do on it. I actually wanted to do a video of the first time we took it out. I think we did shoot some footage of just pulling the engine out, but I didn't really take any video of taking
I do
it apart.
wish we had checked it to see do a performance on it before we originally started, before you put the intake and stuff on it.
Yeah. So got that. And aside from just getting a well-performing engine, I just really don't want to have something leaking oil. Then if
It's old, it's going to leak oil.
I know, but it's also
It's
leaking.
going to leak oil after we rebuild it.
Oh, come on, man. It's discouraging. I don't want to hear that.
It's old. It's tired.
My goal is to get that thing sealed up. I mean, it doesn't have to be all tired. I mean, I should be able to get 100,000 miles out of it when we're done. But then, then the next thing is that's probably going to cause me a problem is the transmission. It's already leaking some stuff, so I don't know if it's just bad gaskets or something, but that's going to be the next thing. I think maybe as we pull it out, we'll probably get under there and take it.
I can tell you the best way to fix it.
Wow.
Put a drain pan under it.
Put a drain pan under it. Other things, this week, man, the last few weeks, it's just been really busy. So I still have a career working, and, we're recording this at night after dinner.
In the garage.
In the garage. Not sure if we're always going to be doing it in the garage. It's cold in here.
Yes.
I can see you're all like cuddled up to yourself there. But, we'll see how this goes and see, if there's maybe a warmer, more climate controlled place to set up the podcast studio here.
Well, hopefully the weather will start changing a little more. And I'll
it's going to get really hot.
It's true. I think I'd rather be hot than cold.
Yeah.
I'm from the South, so I'd rather.
Well, me too. That's why I moved down here. I got tired of pushing snow and being cold all the time. My kids still miss the snow. They miss the skiing and the, sledding and stuff up there, snowmobiling, all that stuff, which can't find any of that down here. But I can almost every month of the year ride the Harley.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing.
Yeah, how many months could you ride it up there? 3 or 4?
Oh, I'd be lucky. So, man, up in Minnesota, we'd sometimes get snowstorms around Easter. And, so it did really start getting nice, and people actually start hitting the lakes somewhere mid-May. And then pretty much everything would shut down come Labor Day, first weekend in September. And by the end of September, you're already seeing frost on the ground.
Yeah.
And then, it's typically snowy until
September here. We're heading off to rallies on a motorcycle.
Yeah. I mean, you still get some 90-degree days up here. But yeah, up there we get snow usually by Halloween. We were getting snow right around Halloween. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April. I mean, you're talking 7 months of snow. That's more than half the year. So
You can get 9 or 10 months here, and if you're really brave, some winters you can get all winter here if you really want to get out in it with a little chilly. But
yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to getting the bike back out of the garage, and we had a couple nice days last week that Alan scouted out, but other things got in the way.
yeah, I haven't had mine out in 3 months, probably. I'm out.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to do to my Harley, and I never got around to it yet. I've got the factory exhaust on it. You and I talked about putting some slip-ons on there.
Yeah.
Some neighbor haters maybe.
Yeah, I told you I can just bring mine up.
Yeah.
Get them broke in.
Yeah, get them used to
Yeah.
the loudness here. But what else is going on? So obviously you've got some house projects you need to get started on too.
I do. I've got a little bit of the, we call them soffits, the overhangs. I need to work on those a little bit, and I need to work on my roof a little. Really should do more work inside, but
You got to
should do a little painting and remodeling inside.
Got to protect the outside shell
Yeah.
to protect the inside stuff. But yeah, we might have to have a maintenance party at your house.
Maybe we'll have a show at my house doing the outside.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'll be some content.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of other big projects going on here. My wife wants me to do some retrimming of woodwork and stuff in the house. A couple other little things, nothing major. But yeah, so I guess we need.
Got a couple of cars that need fixed. And
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So you flip cars. You've done a lot.
I started when I was my neighbor. My neighbor was a little older than me, and I bought my first one. I bought it with him to resell at. I don't think I was quite 15 years old. Of course, I never drove it, but he was about 4 years older than me, and so we went in together and bought a car. And I think I might have been 15. And that's when he started, and I've been doing it ever since. It's fun.
You've always loved it.
Yeah. I never even intended on being a mechanic. I was working at a sheet metal shop doing restaurant equipment, and me and the boss had a disagreement, and he fired me. So it's a pretty good story. So. We had where I work, we had another building, maybe 4 or 5 blocks down the road that we used for storage. So I was kind of the grunt. It was me and another guy. And so we went down there to get a freezer, a big stand-up commercial freezer. So the other guy just had one leg. So this is where the story gets going. We were driving an old 71 model Chevrolet truck. So we get down there, we load it, and realize we don't have any straps or anything. So I said, I'll walk back down there because it's like 4 blocks away and get rope. He said, no, I can hold it. So
the one-legged guy?
Yeah, so the one-legged guy. So we made it maybe 2 blocks before it went over the side of the truck.
Oh, man.
So it's laying in the middle of 11th Street, face down in the middle of 11th Street, and it weighs several hundred pounds. So I can't lift it because we just slid it from the dock off into the truck. We can't lift it. So it's in the street. I got traffic blocked up. So I just grabbed the cord, wrapped it around the trailer hitch, and headed down 11th Street with it.
Are you kidding me?
I had to get it out of the road. Well, obviously the boss didn't really like my plan too much. So he fired us both on the spot. So anyway, I left there and I stopped by a friend of mine was working at a garage downtown. And so it was before lunch. So I stopped to see if he wanted to eat lunch. And his boss said, I told him what happened. And his boss said, well, I just had to fire somebody. So why don't you come to work for me? And I said, well, I don't really want to, but I said, I'll come to work. You keep hunting somebody, and I'll keep hunting a job. And I worked there about 8 or 9 years before I finally quit.
Huh.
And that's where it started.
Yeah. So you just kind of, after that, you just were.
Yeah. After that, I just went, I went to another independent. I went to the dealership. I went to work for Ford. Worked there for a while. Dealerships it's hard to make a living, or it was then. I assume it still is. I quit the dealership in 96. Another guy came to the dealer where I was working, offered me a job. I went to work with him. Worked there 5 or 6 years. And then bought a frame machine and opened a shop and started doing drivability. I done drivability, and another guy ran the frame machine. So we fixed wrecks and done some used car dealer work and stuff.
Yeah.
So
now lately, last few years, you've been just finding some deals on cars and doing some fairly minimal improvements to them.
Yeah, I don't like to get deep anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have the equipment anymore. I don't have a frame machine. I don't mind doing some scratch and dent stuff, but like I've got a Lincoln now that needs a right fender and a little bit of paint work on the right side, and that's it. And that's about the extent of what I want to get into.
But you also do a lot of so you've got a business, a resale business as well, right? You do a lot of eBay work and I went over to your place the other night to pick up a couple tools, and you had all those wheels laid out in your driveway.
Yeah, I had about 20 wheels out. I like to do. It's fun to do vintage hot rod parts is what I like to do. Wheels, drag racing parts, that kind of stuff. A lot of swap meets. A lot of trips out Midwest. Midwest, I never knew it, but apparently is a pretty big drag racing area.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know that.
I never knew that, but like Missouri and Kansas and Nebraska and all out in there.
All Florida states.
They're pretty big into drag racing. I never knew that, but so there's a lot of old hot rod parts and cars out there. So
cool.
So.
All right. So, let's see what else. What else you got coming up? Anything?
Me? No, I guess traveling season where me and the wife travel and go by. That'll start next month, and we'll do about probably 12 or 14 trips through the year between next month and December. So we got quite a few of those trip planned for up north and out Midwest and a little bit south, but I like to hit the northern states during the summer. So that's about it for me.
You didn't happen to watch the Super Bowl last weekend, did you?
Nah.
Yeah.
I've never. I don't know if you've ever heard of David Freiberger. He was an editor, big in Hot Rod Magazine. He was on Motor Trend. And he posted a video the other day on Super Bowl Sunday, and he feels exactly the way I did. He said, I'm posting a video today because I really don't like baseball anyway. And that's kind of the way I feel.
How many innings are in a football game?
Yeah, I don't think I have ever. I know I've never watched a whole Super Bowl in my life.
Well,
Generally car guys are not big sports guys.
Yeah. I've always been a big, being from Minnesota, I've always been a Vikings fan. Mm. But man, they let us down so many times. They've gone to the Super Bowl 4 times, never won a loss. They've never won a Super Bowl before. They were having such a great season. We had a good quarterback with Sam Darnold this year, and just completely fell apart in the playoff. But watching this, so it was the Chiefs and the Eagles this year,
right.
And the Chiefs had won the last two consecutive Super Bowls. So I was kind of rooting for the Eagles anyway. I didn't want to see a team win for the third time. But boy, I turned it off after the horrible halftime show, but the game itself, the first half, I felt so bad for the Chiefs. They were just getting stopped. And Patrick Mahomes, I think he got sacked 3 or 4 times, in the second quarter. It was just terrible. But I think lately, the last few years, the halftime shows have just been absolutely horrible.
Now, I thought last year people liked the one last year. They didn't?
I didn't like it.
No, I didn't watch it.
No, I didn't like it.
I know it's very odd for guys to not like football, but I don't like either one of them.
I like the football, but I haven't seen a good halftime show in many years. So, I don't know. Anyway, so you're not a football guy. You're not sitting in front of the TV on Sundays watching football. No. Like I say, I don't know that I've ever honestly watched an entire football game, let alone Super Bowl game. Really?
Yeah. I might have watched the whole baseball game, but I doubt it.
You know what's kind of fun? So my son, he's in the marching band, the high school, and so he plays saxophone in the marching band. So my wife and I would go to all the games because they're playing in all the games and marching on the fields. But man, those high school games are, I think, more fun to watch than pro football.
I would say I've watched more high school football games than pro games.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just a lot of fun. So that's something we look forward to in the start of the school season. But well, that's probably about it for tonight. We got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of things, a lot of topics that we've got a whole list of things that we'll eventually be talking about. We talked about a few things just touched on when we first did introductions. But I'll be curious to see how your leak project goes, and y'all can follow us on. Oh, I said y'all. My son.
How long have you been down here? 4 years? That's enough.
5 years. My son.
That's long enough.
I told my son, my daughter, when we moved down here, I said, if you ever catch me saying y'all, you got the right to punch me.
Yeah.
So he'll watch this video and come and punch me. So I better be ready.
We can talk some about your lack of Southern vocabulary.
I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but it's as long as people can just understand you, I think we're
believe it or not, as hard as I am to understand sometimes, my family, I'm probably the least Southern accent of my family.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, you've heard Bobby, my brother-in-law. He's pretty deep Southern and slow talking, and the guy you got the truck from, he's pretty country too.
Yeah, he is. Remember when we went there to get the truck?
Yeah.
But you said the word slow, and I will say in the South, everything moves slow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like there's not a lot of sense of urgency.
Right.
And I don't know why that is, but just people down here are just really laid back.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, because I think, it's a more stress-free lifestyle. But if you want something done.
We work on a different time schedule, around here.
Yeah. It's like, you hire somebody to do a job for you and they say, well, get it after lunch, or I've got to go fishing today.
And you got to watch too with the words. Like years ago, Clint, what used to be our brother-in-law, when he built the house here in Chattanooga, so the builder, I found him a builder, and the builder told him to meet him at dinner time to talk about it. So his builder calls me about 1 o'clock and says, "Where's he at?" And he ain't here. And I said, "I don't know." So I called him, and he said dinner. And I said, "Well, it is dinner time. Here in the South, it's breakfast, dinner, supper." So I said, "You're late. It's not 5 o'clock, it's noon." So there's a lot of things you got to learn.
Now, up north, it was breakfast, lunch, and supper.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here it's breakfast, dinner, supper. Mainly with the old timers.
Yeah. See, I'm still not up to speed. That was new to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll probably wrap this one up now, and we'll catch you all on the next episode here. But if you like tuning in, listen to the conversation, like and subscribe.
And we'll come up with a name.
We'll come up with a name for this podcast, and we'll expect to see a lot more content, a lot more conversations, and not just sitting here at the desk, but we'll be getting under the hood of the truck, and we'll be heading over to Jeff's house probably in the next whenever he gets around to it. I don't know if it's lunch or dinner for you there, but
and I hope we can convince some people to set in with us.
Come on the show and join in the banter, and and
maybe like do an actual interview or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for all tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.